To invest in the S&P 500 through interactive brokers, the initial crucial aspect you must understand is that direct investment in the S&P 500 itself is not feasible because it is an index. This index is fundamentally a mathematical formula that was developed to track the 500 largest companies by market capitalization within the United States. What has transpired is that numerous fund managers, including Vanguard or BlackRock, have opted to replicate this index. How do they intend to accomplish this? Creating an exchange-traded fund, and exchange-traded funds are those investment funds managed by these administrators. However, I don't want to complicate matters excessively, so I'll simply leave this webpage in the description of the video, because since you're going to invest through an exchange-traded fund, you can now invest in the S&P 500. This ETF will adhere to that mathematical formula, let's say, of the S&P 500 and replicate it in various ways. That's where this webpage becomes relevant, and that's why I don't demonstrate in a simple and straightforward manner how to invest here, and that's it. What occurs is that to invest in the S&P 500, we have numerous ETFs domiciled in Europe and the United States, and depending on the country from which you invest, the tax situation alters. It also changes whether it's distributive or accumulative in tax terms, and this can also impact the commission charged by the ETF. That's why I'm leaving this here for you to investigate, because there are also ETFs that follow the S&P 500 but are leveraged, meaning, I don't know, 1 to 10. So if the index has a 10% gain, it multiplies that by 10 because it's leveraged, but if it has a 10% loss, it multiplies by 10 because it's still leveraged. These are the kinds of aspects you need to consider. Now, the beneficial aspect is that by investing in interactive brokers, you practically have access to almost all the markets globally. So once you select an ETF from those listed here and research it thoroughly, you can go and search for it, and you'll surely locate it. But to illustrate in this tutorial, one of the most typical ones people usually invest in is one called VOO, which is from Vanguard, and it's right here directly in the United States. As you can observe, this one has a price of 615.72. Well, just at this moment it decreased. And in fact, that's another distinction you'll encounter when investing, which is that when you invest here, you might find this ETF here, but you might go to look for another one. Let's find another one, like SP for instance, this one from SPI. Look, if we enter this one and search for it, you'll notice the price changes. This one is at 669 and this one is at 615. It doesn't mean one is superior to the other just because of the price. It could be because for some individuals it's easier to invest in this and buy one unit of the ETF directly than to invest 669, which is a bit higher. But there are also other ETFs that follow the SP and are ETFs that cost $200, $300, meaning much lower. Moreover, please remember that with interactive brokers, you have the capability to purchase fractional shares. This means if you don't possess the entire $615, you can invest $300, which equates to, for instance, 0.5 of an ETF in total. So keep in mind that this will consistently be by units. Once you locate the ETF, as I previously mentioned, within this entire list or even on other websites, you can efficiently search for the optimal S&P 500 ETF for you, the one that fits you best. So you search for the ticker, which is essentially what I am placing here. If you observe, this is actually named Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, but I searched for it as VOO. So you simply search for the ticker and find it here. Once you have it and are certain you want to invest here, the only action you need to take is to go to the right where it says buy, and here in buy, all of this will appear. Give me a moment, I'll remove the camera so you can see behind me. At this moment, as you can see, it just appears here at 615.76. Well, here it will display the amount of money you have available. In this case, I have nothing available to buy, so everything appears at 0. But essentially what you will do here is invest in this ETF, and you do it as follows. You go to the section that says buy, and then here it tells you the quantity. This is by the quantity of ETF. So this is what I mentioned earlier. If I buy 100 units of this ETF, then essentially what I'm doing is multiplying its price by 100, which gives me 61,571 at this moment. Now, if I don't want to buy based on units because I don't know how much, for example, $200 is equivalent to, and I have to put 0.5, no, now 0.3, well, I got closer, let's raise it a bit, and so on. Then what I can do is click here where it says shares on the right side, and here we change to dollars. In this case, because this ETF is in the United States, dollars appear, but if you are investing in a stock exchange in another country, euros or another currency may appear here, but well, here we have dollars. Now we move here where it says 0, And now, for example, if I had $200, I put $200 there, and instead of buying by units, I will buy $200 of this ETF, which might tell me it is 0.32% or something like that, and I can simply invest. Then the type of order, several things appear here, but I don't want to complicate you with this either. So the simplest thing for the order to execute faster is to send it at market price, meaning at what is being traded at that moment in the stock market. Then the purchase will be made, which in this case is at the price that is here. But if, for example, I want to use another service, I can use this Interactive Brokers Meet Price, which will try to find the best possible price, but I almost never use that one. And the other one you can use is this limit one. If, for example, at this moment you want to buy those $200, but you want to buy it at a much lower price, then you set it as a limit order and you say you want to buy it, for example, at $590. This doesn't mean the order will definitely be executed. This means you might be waiting for the price of the ETF to drop in the next few minutes or days, and just when people are willing to sell at this price, then you execute that purchase. But remember, this is a matter of supply and demand, which means if someone is not willing to sell at this price, your order can stay open there for days and days and days and days, and it will never be executed, and no one will sell to you at this price if the ETF, for example, doesn't drop its price or someone isn't available to sell it at that price. So that's why it's important to keep it in mind. And once you configured all this, now you click buy or send order, and that's it. You simply wait for the order to be executed. And when you already have this, well, let's close it at least here at the beginning. When you already have it here, for example, in main positions in the portfolio, look, I have these ETFs. The VOO will appear precisely here, already bought, and you simply have to wait for the ETF in question to rise or fall. And based on this, you'll know if you gained or lost money. So that's how you invest in the SP in Interactive Brokers. And if you want to invest in any other ETF, not necessarily this VO, what you will do, as I mentioned, is search in this list and also look at the cost, because remember that ETFs have a management cost. So it may be that one charges you, for example, here it goes from 0.3 to 0.15. Obviously we will prefer these, but many times these here can give us a higher return but also with a higher risk. So that's why it's important to review all this so you know which ETF really suits you best.